Afternoon. The time is 3:03. This meeting of the Finance Committee for July 24th, 2025 is hereby called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Keith Larson.
Here.
Alderman Dan Barreiro.
Here.
Alderman Edward J. Bug. Vice Chair Carl Franco.
Here. Chairman
Masiacos is present.
Clerk, could you please read the approval of the minutes?
Item 25-0576, approval of the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting held on July 10th, 2025.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion for Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Barrero. Any comments or questions to this item? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Oh, well, we have that motion. I'm sorry. Motion made. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to provide public comment?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. Before we proceed, I'd like to let people out in the community know that we've had a couple of blackouts real quick because of the weather. We are recording it. The full recording will be available after this meeting as well if anybody has concerns. But during these interruptions, we will be making every effort to pause and restart as we move along. And anybody in the audience here who's here to also make a presentation, just keep that in mind. If it does go out, the power, we will ask you to pause and restart when our power comes back on and our cameras and our recording systems are ready to go again. So appreciates everybody's understanding and patience. So clerk, could you please read the first item on the agenda?
Item 25-0574, a resolution to authorize the purchase of museum collection storage equipment from Bradford Systems at a total cost of $84,889.
Do we have anyone from staff who wishes to speak on this item?
Hi, Eric Pry, Museum Director for the GAR Military Museum. So the proposal within here, Bradford Systems, it's for a total rehaul of our collection storage equipment. What we currently have is just open flat shelving, steel shelving that was purchased in 2020 and 2021 with funds from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. With our upcoming relocation or rehousing project to 745 Aurora Avenue, we applied for a grant through the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and we were awarded $41,998, and the City of Aurora budgeted an additional $50,000 for budget year 2023. With some delays in that project, we've since carried over those funds until this year, and we'll probably end up carrying them over one more year just because of the timeline on the equipment purchased within.
Okay, so we're going to carry them to the 2025 budget.
I'm sorry.
2026 budget for 2025?
Yes.
All right, okay.
We're looking to spend the IMLS money first because we only received an extension until March of next year. So we have to spend that money before we spend the $50,000 that the city budgeted separately from the $41,998.
All right, okay. You ready if committee has any questions for you?
Yep.
All right, fantastic.
I have a question.
Okay, Alderman Franco.
So how does that work? You're going to spend $91,000, right? And you're going to piecemeal it because you don't have it, so you're going to buy stuff, and then when you get the $50,000, buy more stuff? Is that how that works?
Well, the plan is to order everything all at once.
Right.
And it's just some lead times are 10 weeks. He said the farthest out lead time that he has right now is 26 weeks, which would push us into 2026.
Mm-hmm. Well, right, so you're going to purchase when you can with the $41,000, but if you don't, so you won't be able to pay anybody until 2026 with the $50,000? I'm just trying to get how that money's going to work to pay people if you're fragmenting it, I guess.
I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure about
Okay.
how the
I mean,
contract
it's not a terrible thing. I'm
payment
just
is-
kind of curious about that.
Yeah.
Jolene Coulter, Director of Purchasing. What we'll do is we'll actually use the grant money first when we're paying down the items. He said some of the items will come in sooner. We'll use those funds first.
So you'll order all the items and then you'll pay, everybody's good to pay later when the $50,000 becomes available? I mean, that's how,
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll transfer the money or carry over the money if we need to because the order hasn't been delivered yet.
Okay.
But Otherwise, we'll pay down the grant money first and then go into the other funds.
All right, I was just
So.
kind of wondering how that worked, we didn't have all the money at one time. All right, thank you, that's all I had.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Alderman Barrow.
Yeah, can you give more detail on the new location, that 745 Aurora Avenue is, what's going in there and how much of the space are you getting? Is that just for storage?
Yes, this is just for museum collection storage. So from my understanding, we'll get about a third of the building. I'm not familiar with what's going in the other 2/3 of it.
Mhm.
We have the middle section is what I'm told. And so it's reserved just for museum collections. I'll have access to the building, obviously central services will, but it'll be restricted access beyond that due to the intrinsic value of these items. I believe I attached a little mock-up of how it will look in there. They only cut out the section that we were part of. So all the shelving will be delivered there. We'll have a garage door so we can bring in everything directly into that space.
Yeah, last time I was in that building, it was like a garage, so are they gonna do anything special for the collection?
Yeah, from my understanding, the renovation is almost complete. They put on a new roof, and the area that we'll be in will be the only climate-controlled space, from my knowledge, potentially another space. But they put in new air conditioning units, dehumidifiers, lighting, everything that we'll need.
Perfect, thank you.
Are there any other questions? No.
So moved.
Mr. Will, okay.
Second.
I have a motion by Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Damborero. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Clerk, could you please read the next item on the agenda?
Item 25-0594, acceptance of the 2024 annual financial reports for the city TIF funds, single audit, and GATA reports.
I'm thinking, oh, there you go, finance is here. This is
Yes.
fantastic.
Good afternoon. I am Linda Reed, Comptroller Deputy Treasurer for the Finance Department, and we are here presenting our 2024 financial statements. In your Register item are electronic copies of everything, but yesterday we dropped off the big book, which is our annual comprehensive financial report, which is all our big financial statements, which we'll be talking about later. You should have a single audit report, which is the report we file with the Federal Clearinghouse that talks about all of our federal award grant program funds that we get. And then the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, also called GATA. That's all of our state grants that we're required to file with the state of Illinois. You should have in your packet all the TIF reports that are filed with the Comptroller's report. And then what Dan Ferguson just passed out is our management letter issued by Sickage. That one is not included in your Register item because that is not a public document. That is for the auditors to communicate directly to you, the Finance Committee, about management letter comments. I'd just like to state that we were compliant with all of our filings and our reports by June 30th. We got our Comptroller's report filed with the state of Illinois. The Federal Clearinghouse has our single audit. The GATA report goes to the state of Illinois. The TIF reports go to the state of Illinois. We publish the Treasurer's report in the Beacon News as we're required to, and that is also has the listing of all the vendors and the employee salaries. That was published, I believe, July 9th, I think. And we have put our updated bond disclosures on EMMA, which is for all of our bond documents. We're required to update our financial information every year. And we applied for the GFOA award for our 2024 financial statements. And I'm pleased to report that we received our GFOA award for financial reports for our 2023 financial statements. Jim Savio, our partner from Sickage, is here, and he's going to be going over in more detail the audit reports. But I just want to give a brief overview. If you read nothing else in this big book, because I know it is kind of overwhelming and daunting, but the management discussion and analysis, that's a narrative that points out all the highlights for the year. It gives you, in layman's terms, a lot of the information and explanations for increases, decreases. So I highly recommend that you read that section. Another important section is our statistical section. This has 10-year trend information, so if you want to see trends up and down about pensions, debt, all that, our EAV. That's another good section to look at. And if there's a particular thing that you're interested in, like debt, capital assets, or pension information, read the footnotes because there's a lot of detailed information in there. So with that, I will turn it over. Oh, before I stop, I would like to thank my staff, Dan Ferguson, and I have two other staff, Anna Ruiz and Daniel Contreras, who are here, that were instrumental in putting all this together. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Jim Savio.
Great, thank you, Linda, and thanks everyone for your time here tonight. Really do appreciate it. I want to start off too by thanking Linda and her entire staff for all of their assistance throughout the audit process this year.
Do you mind stating your name and who you represent
Sure.
real quick?
Jim Savio, I'm a principal with Sikich.
Thank you, thank you.
Want to thank Linda, their staff, for all their assistance. We're able to answer our questions, get us all the information we needed in a timely basis. We're able to meet all of our key audit deadlines and get the reports out on time. So I want to thank them for their professionalism. What I'm going to do is go through real high level the annual comprehensive financial reports. That's the bigger report. I'm going to go through the table of contents. I'll walk through that just to give you an idea what's in the report. It's 200 pages, so give you a high level overview of what's in the report, and then I'll talk mainly about the reports that we issue, which is going to be the independent auditor's report, and then our report that we have to issue because you need a single audit. So it's commonly referred to as a yellow book opinion. So I'll talk about that, and then I'll go through just touching on the general fund real quick, balance sheet and income statement, and then the pension fund funded ratios, and then talk a little bit about the board communication that you just received, and then be happy to answer any questions on those reports or any of the other reports that we issued. So I'll start, like I said, with the annual comprehensive financial report, the first page of the table of contents. There's three main sections to the report: the introductory section, the financial section, and then the statistical section. Linda already pointed out you received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for last year's report. That's the 26th consecutive year that you've received that award. So another a great job by the finance staff. After that is the financial section, the independent auditor's report I will talk about. That's on pages 1 through 4. And then our report on internal control of our financial reporting and on compliance and other matters. That's on pages 5 and 6. That's a yellow book opinion that I just mentioned. I'll talk about that. MD&A, Linda already mentioned it, so the only thing I'd point out there, encourage you to read it, just like Linda said. Great overview of the city's financial position and changes in financial position. Also has some 2-year comparative data that you can't find elsewhere in the report as well. After that then are the basic financial statements. I'll point out the basic financial statements are what we give the opinion on, and I'll tell you, walk you through what we do with the rest of the information in the report. So the basic financial statements start with the government-wide financial statement, the statement of net position and statement of activities. That's your income, your balance sheet and income statement. This presents the consolidated financial statements of the city. So it's going to have all the funds except the fiduciary funds, broken out between governmental activities, which are all your governmental funds, and then business type activities, which is water and sewer, airport, MVPS, transit, and golf. It has a long-term focus. It has capital assets. It has long-term debt, and it's similar to corporate financial statements. So if you're going to compare these statements to a corporation, those are the statements that you compare them to. Now contrast that with the fund financial statements, the governmental funds that follow right below that on page 11. This has a short-term focus, so no capital assets, no long-term debt. It's similar to how you budget, so it's just focused on spendable resources. It'll show major funds as a separate column, and then non-major funds are all combined into one column with detail further back in the report that shows you the detail behind the non-major fund presentation. And then there's a reconciliation on pages 13 and 15 that show you how you get from the short-term focus to the long-term focus. So page 2 of the table of contents starts off with the proprietary funds on pages 16 through 20. These again have a long-term focus, but they're a little more detailed, slightly different format, and it does have a statement of cash flows. And then the fiduciary funds start on page 21. Again, a balance sheet and an income statement for your pension and retiree health funds. There are individual statements for each of the pensions and retiree health in the back of the report. After that then are notes to the financial statements on pages 23 through 86. A lot of additional information that supports the basic financial statements, and should be read in conjunction with them. After that then is required supplementary information, or RSI, I may refer to it as. This has a budget versus actual for your general fund, and then any special, major special revenue fund that you have. This year, your tax increment financing District 17 was a major special revenue fund. So accounting principles require that we show that in the RSI. And then the rest of the RSI is information on your pension funds and retiree health funds. On the next page of the table of contents are the next section is the combining and individual fund financial statements. This has a lot of the detailed budget versus actual reports. It also has those combining statements I talked about that has support for the combining amounts in the basic financial statements. And then after that is the stat section that Linda already talked about. Like she said, some great 10-year trend information, some non-financial data in there that kind of puts the financial statements in perspective and proper context, and maybe a little more interesting to the non-accountant. And then there's some additional disclosures that are required by SEC Rule 15C 212 on pages 227 to 256. That's required for your EMA disclosures. A lot of repeat information that's already in the Act in that information. So that's what's in the report. I'll turn to page 1. So this is our independent auditor's report. The opinion paragraphs are the first 2 paragraphs on page 1. And the second paragraph, we give an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide to the city. Basically says the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And then on the very next paragraph, change in accounting principle, we did adopt GASB Statement 100, accounting changes and error corrections, which is an amendment of GASB 62 during the year. We did implement GASB Statement 101 on compensated absences for the year. Didn't have a material impact on the city, though. And then on page 3 of the independent auditor's report, so this is where we tell you what we do with the rest of the information. So the RSI information, which is the MD&A in the RSI section, do some limited procedures, make sure it's consistent with the basic financial statements, but not enough to give an opinion on it. Supplementary information is the combining an individual fund financial statements. We give what we call an in relation to opinion. So in relation to the basic financial statements, they're not materially misstated. And then the other information on page 4 is the introductory section, stats section, and additional disclosures, those SEC disclosures. So we don't give an opinion on this information. We do read it, though, make sure it's materially consistent with the basic financial statements or not otherwise materially misstated. If it were, we would request that you restate that information, or if it wasn't, we'd communicate that to you. And then right after that is the Yellow Book opinion on page 5. So again, this is 2 things, a report on internal control over financial reporting, and then on compliance and other matters. So the report on internal control starts with that second paragraph. And if you go to page 6, the very first paragraph up at the top, we basically state that we didn't note any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. So we also didn't have any significant deficiencies noted. And then the report on compliance and other matters is the very next paragraph. In that last sentence, the results of our test disclose no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. So I will skip ahead to the page 11, I believe. Yeah, page 11 is the balance sheet for the governmental funds. So these are those short-term focused funds. The general fund is your first column. And if you go to page 12, the fund balance down at the bottom, this is kind of like retained earnings if it was a corporation. You'll see the unassigned deficit is about $30 million, that very last line. Last year was about $21 million. That's about 12.4% of the 2024 current year expenditures. The unrestricted is about 14.5% of the 2024 expenditures. And you can see your general fund balance policy is on page 33. So you were in line with that policy.
have a question for you, if you mind if I interject real quick. You're working on the big book, right?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Okay. And page 33 would be what? We have some, okay, 33. We have to go beyond the Roman numerals. Okay.
Yeah, page 33 shows you the fund balance policy for the general
Okay.
fund. It's that, if you look on page 33, it's the second paragraph.
Trying to keep up with you, that's all.
Yeah,
All right.
I'll try to slow down.
Okay.
The page numbers jump around from Roman numeral to page number to,
Yeah, some of the intro stuff is Roman numeral, and the MD&As are a separate page, so basically so our admin doesn't go crazy re-page numbering everything when there's a change, so.
So you're on page 33, if you may continue.
Yeah, so page 33, basically, that second paragraph that I referenced, it shows you that the general fund balance should be maintained at the greater of 10% of expenditures and other financing uses as originally budgeted for the fiscal year, or 1 million plus 25% of the current fiscal year's property tax levy. So that's just the minimum that you're supposed to have in the general fund. And you had about $30 million of unassigned. And the last thing I'll talk about in the annual comprehensive financial report is going to be in the RSI section, starting on page 93. And what these next three schedules basically show is the funded status of your three pension funds. So Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, police pension, and then fire pension. So on page 93, you'll see the total pension liability is the first section. That's what the actuary determines is your liability as of the calendar year end. IMRF is a year behind, so we don't have to wait for their 2024 info, and we can issue the reports on time. So we report 1 year in arrear, which is acceptable under GAAP. So for December 31st, 2023, you'll see the net pension liability is about $30 million, which is a reduction of about $10 million from the prior year, mainly due to net investment income. And you'll see on page 94, that very first line, that's the funded ratio there. So you'll see it's funded at about a little over 90%. It's fluctuated between 81 and about 107%. So IMRF is very well funded. Now the same information is on page 95 for the police pension fund. You'll see the employer's net pension liability is down at the bottom, that bottom line. You'll see it increased slightly in 2024, but the funded ratio actually increased just slightly on page 96. So that's been trending higher over the last 10 years. Same with fire pension, that starts on page 97. You'll see the funded ratios slowly improved, about 10% over the last 10 years. So that's all I have on the annual comprehensive financial report. For that board communication report that you just got, I'll touch on that real quick. And I'll start with the table of contents again. So on pages 2 through 4, there are some required communication we have to have each year with the committee. So that's pretty routine this year. We did communicate that we implemented GASB statements 100 and 101, but otherwise pretty routine year. We didn't have any disagreements with management, no delays in the audit, anything like that. So pretty standard communication on pages 2 through 4. The adjusting journal entries start on page 5 through 9. These are entries we found as part of the audit process. So we're required to communicate that to you. So we have those listed out there. And then a past adjustment is an adjustment that was deemed to be immaterial. It wasn't recorded, but above a certain floor, we communicate that to the finance committee. So that's on page 10. So there's just one entry there. And then the communication of deficiencies starts on page 11. So we didn't, like I said, we didn't have any material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. These are all just considered common deficiencies. And if you start on page 13, you'll see we just had one new deficiency for the current year related to developer agreements and recording some forgivable loans related to those. And you'll see there's a management response for all of these as well. So that's the only new comment we had. And then the status of prior year comments are in Appendix A that starts on page 15. So you'll see the comment, the current status, and then the management response as well. And there were a few, I believe the last two comments on page 19 were fully implemented this year. So that is our board communication report. We did issue a one-page management letter that states in writing that there were no material weaknesses. We did have the single audit, like Linda said, and we issued an unmodified opinion on compliance with the major requirements for the major programs. So that was an unmodified opinion as well. There were 3 major programs. And then the Illinois reporting under the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, we gave an in relation to opinion on that. That was unmodified as well. So that report is fairly stated in relation to the basic financial statements. We also issued those TIF reports that had unmodified opinions as well, that management complied with Public Act 85-1142 in all material instances. So those are the reports we issued. We do issue some separate reports for police, fire, and retiree health, but all that information is basically included in the annual comprehensive financial report. So it has an MD&A. That's about the only difference between it. Otherwise, all that information, the separate reports are in the annual comprehensive financial report. So with that, be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I know it's a lot of information. So.
Well, we certainly just received this packet here, so definitely some more reading.
Yeah.
For some of us.
If you have questions, after this meeting, we're always available. So just reach out to Linda or Stacy if you need to
Sure, I
discuss at all.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I guess before I jump in on this, I'm going to give the floor to my colleagues here on the committee to ask any questions they may have first and foremost, and then I'll chime in myself. So.
Just that I'm probably one of the few people that like to read this stuff, especially the statistical section, and I do like to do a lot of comparisons, and it's helpful to have this information. A lot of times people will make comments out in meetings that I attend and talking about how much debt we have and this and that, and this is very helpful to point to this and talk about the different debt and how much is left and that kind of thing. The only thing that I have a hard time finding is the what these different bond issues were for. The summary of each series. What was constructed with that. That would be very helpful. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Yeah, there is a debt footnote that gives you some of that information. That is on page, let me get to it. Yep, 39.
39.
Starts there. So there is a fair amount of information on the debt and the debt service to maturity requirements. So what debt is going to get paid off when? That's included in footnote number 5. So it does give a brief description of the debt, like I said, and then it gives you the debt requirements that you have to pay till the debt's paid off.
Well, did you answer your question, Alderman Burrow? Do you have anything else?
No, I see the information, but it doesn't spell out the actual projects. That is something that is helpful. When people make comments about the debt that we have, it's good to be able to say, well, this series was for the police station, and this one was for the specific projects. Then they can, okay, that makes sense, and it's just helpful.
Yeah, and that information, we can definitely get you through the official statements and bond ordinances and everything. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Thank you.
Don't move. I just want to make a statement real quick before I ask you a question. It's exciting to hear that we've applied for and we anticipate on receiving a financial award again for last year's efforts. I would love to see it come before COW or City Council as well, and not so much celebrate it, more so, but let the community know about it and the history of our awards and where we're at. I know we had a little bit of a discussion with our new Chief Financial Officer about that, and it'd be great to just give a synopsis as well, where we're at and how we continue the tradition laid by her predecessor. So with that said, if I was to leave here today, and for our residents out in the community that are listening in or will be chiming in, what is one, maybe three things, I don't want to keep you, but at least one thing that we should walk away from understanding about our budget from last year, this audit, I should say?
Oh, as far as the budget?
Yes. I'm not looking for a technical answer, so you know.
Yeah, I mean, what we're auditing are actual numbers. So, I mean, we test the budget numbers that are officially approved to make sure that what's been approved is actually in the annual comprehensive financial report. So, I mean, as far as
I skimmed through it and I see that you do praise and you say some positive things in these reports too for our staff, and that's what I'm trying to get at. If it's something that's positive out of this, what would you say? At least one item about this.
Yeah, I mean,
audit.
if you want to talk about the budget, and at least adherence to the final budget numbers, if you were to go to, let me get the page real quick. So on page 104 is basically, you know, you adhere to the final budget numbers with a few immaterial exceptions. There were a few excesses. If you look on page 104, we show any expenditures that were over budget. So there was only 3 funds that were over budget by immaterial amounts. So, you know, as far as how you perform versus the budget, you were on budget or better.
So is that a standard for other communities? I'm sure you audit other communities and.
Well, yeah, I mean, legally you're required to not expend your budget, you know, materially.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you have to, there's a legal level of control usually at the fund level that you
Okay.
have to adhere to. So,
Okay.
yeah, you pretty much, that's really not an option. So what you do is you may have to amend your budget at some point, but yeah, you can't exceed your budget materially.
Okay, all right. Well, I appreciate that, that effort to respond. Now, this item here, do we just accept it? Do we vote to approve it and to move it forward, or?
A second.
Okay, I have a motion to accept by Alderman Franco, a second by Alderman Dan Barrero. I would say, well, any other comments from staff, our new Chief Financial Officer, or no? I'm sorry, I don't want to make you feel like you've been left out, just in case you want to say something. You're okay? All right. We have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0 to move forward to the COW. So thank you very much once again.
Yeah.
I anticipate we're going to have more of these packets for all the other aldermen as well, just for the record, for clarity. There's only 5 that was presented. We have a 5th one, I believe.
Do we present to the whole? I think it was just to the finance committee. The mayor and the finance committee gets the.
Okay.
letter.
All right. I just want to make sure we have that clarified, because we have a 5th one here with a clerk for our
Alderman Bugg.
Alderman Bugg, who is not here today, is an
He can have
excused absence. All right, okay, fantastic. Let's make sure we got that cleared up. Thank you very much.
Right, yeah. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you as well. I believe there is no closed session.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Alderman Franco. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Keith Larson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. We are adjourned at 3:38 p.m. Thank you one and all.